For the most part of the 19th century, Ireland was the poorest nation in the entire world. And even under in British occupation, its citizens were often considered second-class, agrarian, and illiterate people. But now, a lot has changed. And Ireland is considered one of the richest nations in the entire world, richer than countries like Qatar, Switzerland, and Singapore. Google, Intel, Meta, Air BNB, and others global tech giants have set up their European regional headquarters in Ireland. From every perspective, Ireland as a nation is doing great, until you come to know that not everyone in the country seems to agree with that. A staggering 70% of the young population of the country is considering to leave the nation, mainly due to the economic conditions. This raises the question of how citizens of one of the world's most prosperous nations are looking to establish their careers elsewhere. This dilemma illustrates one of the unique economic challenges that Ireland is grappling with, and upon closer examination, the reality appears far more disheartening than it may seem from the outside. This is the distinctive story of Ireland's economic miracle. In the 19th century, the life of an Irish citizen was exceedingly challenging. The nation was under the control of the British Kingdom, which not only exploited the nation's resources, but also treated its people as second-class citizens. Furthermore, over 90% of the working population depended on farming and simple agriculture for their livelihood. On top of that, laws and social traditions dictated that all sons would inherit equal shares of their father's property, which usually consisted of land. This led to smaller and smaller pieces of land with each passing generation, resulting in reduced food production efficiency. As a consequence, the population found itself trapped in a perpetual food crisis. Ireland's lack of natural resources, inadequate capital investments, and excessive dependence on non-industrialized sectors made it more difficult for the nation to be prosperous. By 1922, although Southern Ireland gained independence from the British through a bloody war, it possessed only a few factories and textile mills, insufficient for Ireland's economy to recover from the damage caused by the conflict. Not only did the war devastate the already inadequate infrastructure of the nation, but the newly founded country also engaged in an economic war with its former ruler, the British Empire, leading to a massive debt crisis. In 1929, the Great Depression further crippled the already rocked economy. This worldwide crisis originated in the US and subsequently impacted other Western nations. By 1932, when the crisis subsided, the nation found itself more impoverished than ever before. During that period, there was a country that not only survived the Great Depression, but also saw its economy flourish due to its self-reliance, and that nation was none other than the communist Soviet Union. Its relative isolation from international banking and global trade shielded it from external economic shocks. In contrast, Ireland, in its quest for self-sufficiency and poverty alleviation, adopted socialism and pursued protectionist policies to isolate itself. The government immediately took control of major corporations and effectively restricted foreign investment and cross-border trade. Ireland was hardly industrialized to begin with, and these measures further contracted the nation's economy. More than 500,000 Irish people emigrated. As a result of its protectionist policies, Ireland also missed the post-World War II economic boom. By the 1950s, Ireland had fallen further behind its other European peers than it had been upon gaining independence. The change was required, and the failed economic policies needed to be rectified. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Sean Lamas, Ireland started to catch up with the industrialized world. The government soon privatized all of the industries again, foreign investment was encouraged, and trade barriers slowly lifted. The nation took massive steps in order to develop the economy. One of these, and the most prestigious step, was the establishment of Shannon Airport Free Zone. This was an industrial park where companies were not taxed on the manufacturing of goods until they left this zone. Since this park was essentially established around an airport, this meant that the country could only attract the companies that manufactured very small and high-value adding products such as aircraft parts, computer components, and diamonds. For any other country, this is kind of limiting its full potential. But considering the fact that Ireland did not have that much population, this proved to be a miracle for the nation. The park drew the attention of some of the most valuable companies globally, including Microsoft, Intel, and Apple. These entities chose to establish a presence there not due to Ireland's significance as a market, but rather because of favorable tax loopholes, enabling substantial tax savings. This influx significantly contributed to the growth of the Irish economy, positioning it in competition with thriving economies like Singapore and South Korea, both of which were experiencing substantial economic booms during that period. This also helped the nation to become the aviation giant, as more than 22% of the passenger airplanes flying around the world are leased by Irish companies. But in 2008, Ireland was once again hit hard by the financial crisis. To address this crisis, the Irish government transformed the country into a tax haven by lowering taxes. This attracted numerous American companies that channeled their global profits through Ireland, where they still did not have to pay taxes, but they parked their profits in Ireland. This helped Ireland to immediately recover from the crisis and saw a rapid growth. It also led to the creation of numerous high-paying tech jobs and established Ireland as the Silicon Valley of Europe. However, if all of this was benefiting the economy, then why are its citizens not satisfied with it? Before further moving on, if you have watched this video so far, then please hit the like and subscribe button to support the channel. In recent years, Ireland has been facing a housing crisis. Government policies towards housing are quite unique and make it challenging for developers to create dense urban housing, as anyone can object and halt the entire project. This has resulted in a severe housing crisis, making housing unaffordable for many people. Despite numerous protests and promises, the government has been unable to resolve the issue. Furthermore, Ireland faces difficulties in undertaking large infrastructure projects such as highways and roads. With underfunded and overcrowded hospitals, the nation's social infrastructure is among the poorest in all of Europe. The highly qualified doctors are leaving for other countries. The fact is that Ireland is not the only country dealing with such a situation. However, this is a striking contrast between Ireland's economic reputation from the outside and the on-ground reality. In reality, Ireland is not as rich as it appears on paper. Ireland has an extremely high GDP per capita, surpassing its European counterparts, creating the impression that Ireland is well ahead of everyone else. However, when you examine other statistics, they will tell you a different story. The average salary in Ireland is high, but considering its GDP per capita, it falls short of what might be expected. The average salary is lower than in most Scandinavian countries and similar to countries like Belgium, Netherlands, and Austria. The crucial difference is that the GDP per capita of these countries is barely half that of Ireland's. Household disposable income, which measures how much money people actually have at their disposal, places Ireland below the European Union's average. There is a stark disconnect between the data and the actual reality. Irish GDP figures are significantly inflated to the point that they don't make any sense. This is because the Irish economy is primarily driven by global corporations shifting their profits to Ireland. Profits that were neither generated in Ireland nor Irish economy got benefited from them. Consequently, the benefits of such a high GDP per capita are rarely transferred to its citizens, and it's challenging to consider Ireland as a wealthy nation. There are two sides of the Irish economy. One is prosperous and rich, while the other side is dealing with crisis and economic challenges. Although major tech companies have their European headquarters in Ireland, this doesn't mean that every Irish person works for Google or Microsoft. These companies employ only a small fraction of the Irish workforce and rely heavily on highly qualified workers from various parts of the world. These well-paid workers drive up the prices of local goods and commodities, impacting those who work in the domestic economy and earn significantly less. While in Ireland, the attention often focuses on the prosperous tech sector, but the actual reality for many citizens is quite different. These inflated GDP measures also conceal many flaws and drawbacks of the Irish economy that would otherwise be readily apparent. For instance, Ireland carries one of the highest national debts globally. But this fact is often overshadowed because it is typically reported in relation to the country's GDP, and Ireland's GDP is significantly inflated. If you just put the GDP figures aside and then compare the country with other similar nations in the world, you will come to know that Ireland is miles away from being the wealthiest. Although due to massive pressure from public and governments around the world, the loophole that made the entire economic miracle possible was closed by an Irish law in 2015, which meant no new cooperate structure could be set up. The story of the Irish economy highlights that GDP figures are not the sole indicator of prosperity in a nation and can be misleading. Major tax loopholes can have devastating effects on the domestic economy if they do not benefit the domestic market. The Irish government has also recognized this and is now making efforts to keep its citizens content by avoiding such economic policies. We can only hope for the best. In the midst of various challenges, Ireland holds great promise for further growth, attracting significant interest from investors. Reflecting on a similar scenario in the 1980s, there was a nation that garnered global attention and was on the brink of becoming the next global superpower, Japan. And if you want an in-depth exploration of the intriguing story of how a single move by America led to the decline of Japan's glory, click on the video to the right, and I will see you there.